I don't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone. I originally posted this story to hopefully get some answers, and the hope for answers quickly changed to a hope for help. But I don't think every single one of you is who you say you are. Some of you ask me where I live. Others tell me to come where they live. Half of you are so convinced that you know what is happening to me, that it's the mold, and that the mold is what caused all of this. But I have a feeling it is something much more sinister. Something that is spreading much faster than some mold. I don't know what, but something isn't right. The pieces don't fit together. There are many things left unexplained. Hopefully there are some of you who can help me. Some of you who aren't here to trick or deceive me. But for now, I will continue my story. I assume that's what most of you are here for anyways. I stood at the top of the stairs, staring into complete darkness. I could hear the footsteps of my sister coming up the steps, and she was speeding up. I was freezing, as if I was standing in a freezer. I quickly grabbed the door and slammed it shut. I tried to look for something to block it with, but she was already at the door. I ran down the hall where Stan had went in hopes that I would find him. I couldn't see much. Stan was the one with the flashlight. I was running in the dark, and I could hear my sister break through the door and start running after me. "Charlie, come here! Mom's downstairs!" I heard her yell. I ran even faster, and I ran my hand against the wall to feel for a door. I finally felt a knob come into contact with my hand, and I tried it. Locked. Alex was getting closer. I was running out of time. I ran a bit more until I found another door. Locked again. I was shit out of luck. My sister was too close for me to try another door, and the door seemed to be locked anyways. I crouched, hoping Alex wouldn't be able to see me either. Thankfully, I heard her stop about 2 to 3 meters away from me. I could hear her breathing, gasping for air as if one of her lungs had collapsed. She was sniffing, as if she could smell me. She could smell my fear. I heard more footsteps behind me, and that's when I figured my time was up. I was surrounded by this thing, and Stan was nowhere to be seen. I closed my eyes and hoped that this would all be over. I could see my sister's lifeless body lying in a pool of her own blood in my head. This image was quickly destroyed when I saw brightness through my eyelids. I opened them and looked up. My sister was still standing there, but she was now illuminated. Oh my God. Stan breathed from behind me. My sister stood in front of me, smiling. Her smile was like the others I've seen, big and unnatural. But this smile was different. Although she was smiling, I could see sadness in her face. It was as if someone was controlling her, making her do things she didn't want to do. Her blue eyes had turned a dark gray, like the life had been drained out of her. Her blonde hair was half soaked in blood, and she had 2 bullet holes in her head. Blood was still pouring out of it as if she had just been shot. Another bullet hole was on her stomach, and I could see the blood pouring through her shirt. It was as if she had got up off the ground where she had been shot and followed us. The wounds looked fresh. The blood hadn't dried. This is where I need your help. I want people to know what I saw. I want people to see it for themselves. Hopefully one of you can draw a decent portrait of my sister. Nothing too specific, just something for you to look at since I couldn't take a picture. Help me. The smile was still there, but her voice sounded as if she was crying. Help me, please. She reached out an arm to me, still asking for help, and I almost did. I almost grabbed her hand. Something about it made me feel like my sister was still in there. I heard gunfire behind me, and in that second, my sister dropped to the ground. I just watched my sister die. Again. She dropped to her knees and fell forward, head coming extremely close to my legs. I stood up and ran to Stan, who was still in shock. His eyes were fixed on my sister's body. I expected her to get up but she never did. "I'm sorry," Stan muttered. "That wasn't my sister. She was already gone. Thank you." But for some reason, I didn't believe myself. Something about me was sure my sister was still in there, but there was no way to be sure. "Do you have a flashlight?" Stan asked. "I do on my phone, but it just died. There may be some chargers in the front office. Follow me. Stay close behind." We walked back where we came from and into where we entered. There were several desks scattered across the room, but Stan headed for the big one in the center. He crouched down and pulled out a bunch of wires connected to an outlet. "Try some of these. They may fit." I checked a few until I found one that fit my phone. I plugged it in and heard the little ding my phone made when it was connected. I felt a sense of relief as I saw my phone start up and my home screen came on. I thought how lucky I was to have power here, but why were all the lights off? I had a few messages but didn't bother checking them, knowing it would be my mom or someone telling me to come over. I put my phone down to charge. I looked at Stan and I could still feel like I remembered him from somewhere. His voice, his face. Something was familiar. "You think you remember me too, huh?" "Yes," I replied, "but I don't know why." "Me neither. But from the moment I saw you and your sister, I felt like we had all met before. Maybe briefly, but for something important." I grabbed his flashlight and looked down the hall where Stan shot my sister. I wanted to make sure she was still there. Thankfully, she was. I sat beside Stan and we talked about our past. Hopefully one of us would click in on the other's story and realize where we recognized each other. We talked for about half an hour about our past. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He was just a stranger. "What's your last name?" I asked. "Brenwick. You?" "Brophy." "Charlie Brophy." Something clicked inside him. That seemed so familiar. I told him my address and it looked like the puzzle pieces were starting to fall into place. I tried to tell him anything that seemed important, my parents' names, relatives, anything. I felt like we were getting closer. "Charlie Brophy, Charlie Brophy," he repeated. His eyes squinted and he kept on repeating the information I gave him. "Charlie, Charlie, Alex, Alex Brophy." His eyes widened. I could tell he knew, but his expression quickly turned to horror. His mouth dropped, and he looked deep into my eyes. Something was wrong. Something he remembered. He didn't speak for a few seconds, and I waited for answers. "What is it?" I asked. While I waited for an answer, I heard my phone start to receive multiple texts. I picked it up and decided to read them. I looked back at Stan, and he looked at me with fear. "What?" I asked. I looked back at my phone, and I had gotten several texts from different friends and family members. They all were the same. "She was never your sister." I don't know what that meant. Not at the time. I looked back up at Stan and noticed he began to move his lips, ready to explain what he realized. Eyes wide with fear, mouth open. He spoke. "I think I know where I remember you from." Hey guys, it's Zombie, and I just wanted to take a few little moments at the end of this video, and if you've made it this far, then cheers to you, and thank you so much. There is only one more video left in the series until it is completely over and done with. So, with that being said, if you have any creepypastas that you want read, make sure that you send those to me, and Gmail, Twitter, Facebook, any social medias, any of my social medias. They are all at RealZombie3D, or you can put them in the comments below. I always read those and I always reply. So yes, if you have any creepypastas that you want read, make sure you submit those, or if you have true horror stories that you want read, because I also do those, make sure that you submit those as well. I need more of those. I need more stories to read. So, yeah, that's it. So thank you again so much for listening, and I hope you have a terrifying night.